as Vivi pointed out, our community is growing, and we've even got partners now in Australia and New Zealand. It was a bit much to ask them to fly over here today. Although that said, Victoria Wellington's visiting our office this end of this week, I think. I don't know where James has gone, but yeah, we've actually got New Zealand visiting the end of this week. She's over on holiday. What I'm going to cover is looking at some of the changes we've done, why we've done it, what are those changes and what that means for you. Talk a little bit about the levels of services that we're introducing. Money Ready for Uni, which is our new service that's aimed particularly at students that are not yet students in different guises. And of course, the opportunity to ask questions and understand anything that I've not made clear. So why have we updated the process that we've got? I mean, obviously, when Vivi first started a one-woman band and a sort of whirlwind force, she was delivering sort of in workshop sessions and realized that we couldn't scale as quickly as we would like to, or you would like to, by being one person. And so we moved to digital services. But ultimately, we recognize that, and I'm sure you will as well, that universities come in all sorts of various shapes and sizes, have varying different types of priorities and different problems. And it was through speaking with current partners and even potential new partners that we started to get a sense that our one-size-fits-all solution wasn't actually hitting the sweet spot for everybody. And so we needed to make adjustments to take account of your different needs. And so it was about, these changes principally are about enabling choice for you, that will actually match your needs rather than us sort of dictating to you what we think you should have. So to help you meet those challenges. Of course, in being able to develop that different level of choice, we can hopefully match up the right set of values for you in terms of, are we delivering the service that you absolutely need? Are we over-delivering and actually giving you more than you don't need? Because I'm sure you'll all nod vigorously, but budget, for example, is always a challenge, trying to justify sometimes even your jobs, with the dreaded R word of restructures. So we've got to make sure that we can help you get the right value from Blackbullion. And so given that level of choice, we should be able to present the right level of value. And ultimately as well, it leads to long-term transparency, that we are building a framework that is clear and understandable for us internally so that we know what we're doing. But equally, from your point of view as our partners, you can actually understand why we make the decisions that we do and also influence the decisions that we make. Because as I've probably said to many of you in the room, we don't just sit in a darkened cupboard and come up with ideas. We rely on you and we rely on the students that use our service and even students that don't use our service to find out what it is that we can deliver that will ultimately help you in your roles, but also the students themselves that use the service. So that's kind of the underlying whys of why we've made the changes that we're making. I'll kind of outline a couple of the key changes just so that you can kind of understand. So one of the things that we've changed is learning pathways, might be referred to commonly as modules. So we're now talking about learning pathways and units and lessons within those pathways. And we've codified them into foundational, advanced, and mastery. And the idea behind that is to make it really easy for us to understand and for you to understand, and even the students in everything that we do, about where the content sits in terms of the sort of journey of financial education. So foundational content is obviously that core piece of information that all human beings need in terms of financial literacy, managing budgets, how to save, managing debt, and then for a student perspective, explaining funding and fees with the Starting University module. So we see that foundational core is something that every student should have, regardless of whether they're an international student, whether they're a mature student, whether they're a student that's yet to become a student. Advanced is obviously the kind of modules that sit there in the platform now, but that's about expanding on obviously the core information around how we sort of help them apply the core concepts that we're helping them understand. And in mastery is kind of content that will again build upon that, and it's all grounded in Andrew's pedagogy. He's a teacher and sort of digital designer of instructional content. So if you really want to get into the bowels and the depths of the thinking of that, have a chat with Andy at lunch or one of the breaks. We talked about obviously the levels of service, being able to kind of gradiate what we do. One of the things we did this year, which a lot of you took advantage of, and actually some universities weren't even partners of ours, was National Student Money Week. We've always delivered campaigns with Ola digitally, but this year we kind of stepped it up with kind of a physical presence, and actually the feedback was really strong from you that actually this was great that you got this maybe too big a parcel in the post that allowed you to deploy a campaign without you having to undergo the rigmarole of design, print and concept, that we could actually get that moving really quickly for you. So we've kind of added that in an element, and I'll take you through step by step on these things. Essentials is what we think is essential, and that's currently what you are experiencing now as partners. So nothing's changed in that sense. What you've got is essentials. Blackbullion Lite, we've kind of introduced again more from the perspective of a prospective partner that really understands and likes the value, but actually sometimes struggles to make the internal case for why they should head for Blackbullion. And so Blackbullion Lite is a very light touch service that allows them to deploy and test properly some of our service to give them an indication that actually this does work, and then obviously they can look to graduate in that sense. And again, they're obviously based at different price points, and of course we follow GIST banding as well to make sure that we are pricing equitably the services that we deliver based on the value that we're hoping to give to you as a consequence. Add-ons, this is quite an interesting one, and Money Ready is the first of our add-ons, and the idea there is that we actually start to look at the student journey and where the student is in their student journey, and how we can best help them in relation to that in terms of the money and finance challenges that they might have. So for example, Money Ready is about dealing with students before they become students, but I can well imagine that we would look to do a more detailed service around students that are about to graduate, moving into the real world, job for the first time. They're going to have those specific challenges, or perhaps international students. We've got our international student module. It's a very quick tour de force, but actually I could well imagine that we explode that out and develop tools as well as learning content to help your international students make the rational decision from how to think about being a student on your campus to how they settle and succeed on campus. We picked Money Ready and sort of pre-students because we've got the kind of access side that we know that some of the universities are already utilising for open days and outreach teams, and so we thought we'd explode that one out. Again, as I'm sure you'll acknowledge, one of the big challenges that students often face in evaluating whether they go to university is understanding things like how does student loans work, because as we all know in the press, there's a load of rubbish out there, shall we say, that kind of hijacks for a political agenda. So we're looking to try and dispel that for them so that they can actually make a rational, logical decision based on information that they can trust, rather than information that's kind of floating around in the ether. And also equally helping those families, first and generation students that are going to university, they don't necessarily know what questions to ask. I say that being a first generation person going to university, I remember distinctly the challenges I faced as a student, having to navigate for the first time and having no one really that I knew and trusted that I could ask dumb questions and know I would get a sensible answer back. As we move forward with add-ons, it will be very much for you as a community to steer us. What's important to you? What are the challenges that you face with your students in the different parts of the student journey? And what would you like us to help you with? So watch that space for add-ons. I think that's going to be something that will develop quite nicely. Engagement. So I kind of talked about the giant parcel. Obviously, we've always had a strong focus on helping you deliver experiential campaigns that help get the key messages across to students on campus in as most straightforward a way as possible. We've recognized that some of you want more support and want physical assets and stuff that you can literally just take out and sort of set up your table and off you go, and you don't have to think about it. I know, I'm going to pick on Nigel, I know from his feedback that students down there loved stuff on Surrey with a campus, for example. And so we want to be able to deliver that for those that want to have that side of things. So it's about improving what we can help you with in that sense. Impact. And I'm not going to talk too much about it because I know that Andrew and Lexi will go into a bit more detail, but we're bringing forward how we measure learn and gain, and looking at sentiment as well, about how students feel. So we don't know currently what the students know about money and budgeting and savings and all that things before they come to Blackbullion. So what we want to be able to determine, so that again it helps you sort of show the impact that you make to the university about what do the students actually learn as they go through Blackbullion. And equally, when they're learning this stuff, how does it make them feel? You know, we did a white paper last year where we worked across 13 university campuses, 257 students had never used the platform, and we saw a marked improvement based on how they felt, their confidence around budgeting, and actually a really key metric which I always pull out is that they self-reported that they were saving £30 more per month on average as a consequence. And as I've said to a few in the room, and I'm sure people have heard me say this before, it's all well and good giving people knowledge, but it's actually what do they do with that knowledge which is really important. And that's the journey that we're looking to go on with Blackbullion. Because it's a digital endpoint, we can actually use that to measure and track and monitor and help us evolve and improve our service, but at the same time evidence the impact that you have with Blackbullion. Plus, so we talked about the different levels of service. So for partners from 2017, 2018 and earlier even, because we have many partners for many years, we are upgrading you to Plus for free for the next 12 months as a way of saying thank you for your loyalty to us as we've grown on a journey. We fully recognise that you're on that journey with us and we couldn't do it without your support. So everybody who's a current partner from last academic year, you know, you're going to get the goodies for free for 12 months. And then you can tell us, is it worth it? And if not, you can go back to Essentials. But I'm sure you will find it worth it. Well, that's the plan anyway. So just to kind of give you a visual sort of sense of difference between the different services of Lite, Essential, Plus, ultimately the key difference in learning content and tools is that the mastery content will go into Plus. So as we develop deeper and more high-level content, that will go into that world. And as you can see, Lite customers will only have that kind of core foundational learning content in that sense. Add-ons, the key difference here, and this is a very short box at the moment, but we expect over time that this add-on box will grow, that ultimately add-ons kind of live in a world where you could actually have them as a standalone service, but ultimately we will look to build value into if you're engaging with us across, you know, our normal financial education project plus add-ons 1, 2, and 3, you know, however many add-ons we get to, you know, a long time yet to go. Customer support. We believe it's really, really important that we give you the best customer support. That's why we hired James and stopped me doing it. So James is obviously your first point of contact, and he is there. And as you can see, whether you're Essential or a Plus customer, you know, the customer success side and the support that you get is the same. You know, we don't really see the difference in that kind of customer support. The only thing that's kind of different, and it's something that we have worked with Kings on, is they've got a really great money mentor network. I'm trying to find. Yasmin's on her way. So Yasmin and co down at King's do a really great money mentoring, and James actually has helped them train their peer-to-peer network. I often talk about them as a really good example of how you could utilize students to help other students in that sense. And of course, workshops. I think, again, I think we'll probably see only more and many of these around the country as we develop the training side of our service. Today, I think it's not yet through officially, but this will be CPD accredited as well for your personal development, and we're looking to deliver that ongoing with different elements in that sense. The other side is the student engagement, and of course the big difference here is delivering sort of physical assets and physical campaigns that will come through the post like Christmas morning for you, and you can get going with it in that sense. We also have done a number of financial education surveys as well, which have been really useful. So I point to Hertfordshire as an example where we asked all of the students on campus what they wanted to learn rather than what you and I think they need to learn. And actually it was quite informative. You know, we got about 1,800 responses. Well, of course, we incentivized with a £5 Amazon voucher. It's amazing what you can do with bribery. And students responded and they told us what they wanted to want. And as a consequence, we learned that they wanted to learn about taxes, investment, and pension. And so we've released a taxes module. Investments is due to be released by the end of this week, and pensions is going to be going by start of the academic year. So we rely on these surveys to help us learn collectively as a community. We did an interesting one with Surrey, which we've not yet written up, but I know Vivi's been working on it, about we interviewed first-year students 3 months after welcome week to find out what they wanted to know before they arrived, to help us collectively learn what students need to know in money terms before they get to university. Because wouldn't it be better actually if we set the students off on the right track in the first instance without seeing them, going down the wrong gully at some point. So that's kind of, the flavour of the changes that are coming in there. And in admin and analytics, again, we'll be looking to develop that, and I'm sure Mark, our lead developer, will probably touch upon that at some point. I don't know if you're going to say that. Am I getting you in trouble, Mark? Are you going to talk about that? I don't know. But maybe you could say something in that sense. Just to give you a flavour of the pathway levels, again, just as I kind of touched upon, the foundational core elements, the advanced of learning content, and the asterisk means that obviously it's not quite there yet. And TBC... this week, yeah. And TBC, we're going to be doing an exercise in a little bit to get your views on what we should be doing and what your priorities are, so that we develop and learning content in the way that makes the most impact for you. Money ready for uni. It might be on your radar, but I want to kind of flash this up and give you a bit of detail about it. So this is aimed at students before they become students, whether that's in that sort of phase of they're coming to open days to ask questions and find out why they should come to your university, or whether it's through the outreach work that you're doing through widening participation and so on and so forth, that ultimately we try and demystify the student funding process so that they can understand, what does it actually mean to have a student loan? What are the consequences of that? We want to promote the financial case for attending university. We all know that actually it's more than just money, but actually there's a clear financial benefits case to go into university long term for an individual over the course of their working life. And we also want to involve parents and guardians in this preparation process. I'm sure you will nod vigorously when you say that most of the questions that come at you from open days are from parents. And they probably ask the same kind of questions over and over again, and they want access to the same kind of information. So let's help you reach them at scale by giving them something that they can take away and engage with in their own time, and actually get going with it. And then they can help their students, who they might not know the answers to themselves, but it can help them go on a learning journey as well. So we've got 4 learning pathways and a couple of tools. So the pathways are why uni, preparing for uni, the parents guide, and fees and funding. Why uni obviously is talking about that case of why you should go to university in a positive way. Preparing for university does what it says on the tin. You've got your place, you're thinking about going to university, or you're definitely sort of landing on campus in 6 weeks' time. What is it you need to do to be ready financially to get going and succeed? Long beyond welcome week and the hangover, and obviously the depleted bank account that comes with that. Parents Guide, as I've touched upon before, about looking at the sort of how they can help their students prepare for university coming forward. Fees and funding obviously talks about the elements of fees and funding, and I know that we've got Bill and Jonathan from Napier in, so we've got the Scottish element of that as well, because obviously Scottish funding is slightly different from English funding. The budget calculator is also in that system, and Desi might well talk to this, but we're developing a loan repayment tool, and we've looked at a lot of stuff that's out there, and what we're trying to boil it down to is really straightforward. This is what you would pay out your pay packet after university. This is what it's going to cost you, because ultimately that's what it's about. You're paying something monthly off your pay packet. So we're looking to make that really stripped back, really clear, and really straightforward for students to understand in that sense. Yeah, I think I've kind of talked about the benefits of it. From your point of view, we're hoping that you're going to be able to enable students and parents to gain access to interactive information at scale, so you can give it to anybody. There's no limitations on this in that sense. Whether it's your outreach teams going into schools and colleges doing their widening participation, or whether it's your open days where you've got thousands of students sort of turning through the turnstiles and you're keen to give them the information, it's there for you to use. We've taken an approach that we want this to be easy to integrate into your current activities. We shouldn't be seeing this, as I always say about Blackbullion, Blackbullion's not a silver bullet, and it's not a replacement for people or structures. It's about augmenting and enhancing what you do and being able to measure what you do by using a digital endpoint with that. So we're already started to, James is already working with Keele, who are award-winning with their onboarding process, to look at how we actually do that with them. And likewise, if you're really keen to get going with this as well, all you freely upgraded Plus people, then chat to James and we'll help develop a plan in terms of the market and an engagement side that we can obviously interweave into what you do. And of course we measure that impact through the platform to see what kind of engagement you get. And then of course we'll enhance that student onboarding, and fingers crossed, well, more than fingers crossed, we'll be able to measure what impact that we actually have together with the students in that sense.